Web technologies rarely change, but when they do change, everybody acknowledges it. So in this video, I'll take you through 8 recent changes in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that you may not know about. So we have a new HTML tag which is called the dialog tag. So the dialog tag is used for making borders, pop-ups, and way easier. So when you make modals in the beginning is that you have a backdrop, you code some CSS, you code some JavaScript. But right now it is possible to make a modal entirely with HTML. So first of all, we have the dialog element like so. So we can type HTML elements inside like I can type, hey guys. Okay. So you notice that the dialog doesn't show by default because by default it is hidden. And the way to make it show by default is that we attach a property called open and now it's going to show. So to be able to close the modal, we can attach a form and the form now has a special method called dialog and we can add a button. We could say close, but it's not actually that easy though because you have to say type submit and we have to give this button a class. This class we're going to use to do something else later. Okay, so we're just going to say close. And now when we click on close, it closes. That is the HTML dialog tag in a nutshell. Of course, you could style this with CSS and make this look more like the modal that you want. So, or pop-up that you want. So what we want to do is that we have to move into CSS changes. So CSS has seen some major changes as well. So first of all, if we refresh our page real quick, let's just say we have a button, for example. We have a button class of button. And if we had another button, okay, so I'm just going to make a button here. And I say random button, for example. Random button. Save this. So if we had a button now and we said dot button, by the way, our dialog, I would like to customize our dialog a little bit by just saying something like color over red. So we have two elements with a class of dot button. If we wanted to give only the one only inside this modal class a class of button, we could just say something like color red, and that will affect both of them, but we don't want it to affect both of them. So the way to do this, except giving one an ID, is by to just say dialog and do this. But this doesn't look quite, it does do the trick as you can see here, but it doesn't look quite clean. So a different way to do this is by called nesting in CSS. So with CSS, you can now nest properties together. So now it's only going to affect the button inside the dialog element. And this nesting is very helpful because you can style properties that are related to each other. So one other new thing in CSS is that we have transform properties. We have individual transform properties. So normally, this is how we normally use transform, something like transform scale 1.5, and that will scale 1.5. But this, we don't need to write transform again. We can just say something like scale, put a colon, remove the brackets, and say something like scale 1.5. And we also have color mix. We can also mix colors now in CSS, which is really cool. Color dash mix in sRGB space, and we can mix red and yellow together, and that is going to give us orange. Nice. So that is it for CSS changes. So what we're going to be looking at now, we're going to be looking at major JavaScript changes that you should be aware of about. So you can run this JavaScript code in the browser. It doesn't really matter, but I like to run it in Visual Studio Code because I feel like I can see what I'm running on. So clear. Let's just say we have an array. So I'm just going to say an array, a basic array, and we have colors. So we have something like red, green, and we have something like blue. So to get the last number in an array has always been very difficult. So normally you can just say something like array of 0, and this will give you the first number in the array, right? It's going to give you the first number in the array. So we can just console log this just to be sure. So it gives us red. But if we wanted to get the last number in an array, it will not be possible. If we say array -1 to get the last number in an array, it's going to return undefined. So the way to do this is to say array.length -1. Now, this is going to give us, we can't write -1 directly, but we can write array.length -1 to get the last number in an array, and this gives us blue. But this code is all very, very straightforward code. So we can just say something like console.log using a new array method at, and we can say at -1, we can say at 0, at whatever point. For this case, we can say at -1, and that's going to give us the last element in that array. It's pretty nice. So I want to talk about more advanced JavaScript concepts like immutability. So if we have an array, like for example, this array, and I clone this array and I say some const array 2 is going to be equal to array 1, right? And let's just say this, you might think that this has made a copy, but it's actually a reference. So observe, if I say array 2, array index of 0, let's just say I don't like red anymore, and I change it to black, for example, which I don't think will happen. But if I change it to black, for example, now, and I console.log array and array 2, notice what happens. It changes it on both of them. But this is not the behavior that we want. We want it to only change it on the second array because the second array is a copy. It is not the original one. It's supposed to be a copy. So this value is mutable. This original array is mutable. It's not immutable. So to fix this, we wrapped it in something called structured clone. Structured clone. You notice how now with structured clone, it does not change the original array. It only just changes the second one. So those are changes in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you like this video, please subscribe and like, and let me know in the comments if you want to see a tutorial on Node.js.